Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ideas Edition podcast. In this episode, I have an amazing guest, friend of mine, and he's actually a business owner. So today I'm bringing you a law firm, and I have the one and only, Brian Hogan with Hogan Smith Law. Brian, how are you today?
Doing great, George. Thank you for having me. Really honored.
It is a pleasure to have you, and I met you maybe about 8 months ago, and we go to these meetings once a month together where different business owners are being accountable with themselves, business leaders, CEOs, and
right.
And I've learned so much from you and what you have done in the law business, and I wanted to bring you over to see if we can help our audience a little bit.
Sure.
This podcast is about entrepreneurs, business owners, agents, agencies that are listening to this. So,
right.
I think it doesn't matter what profession you are successful because of something, right? And there's some things you did throughout that time to be successful. So we just want to learn a little bit more about you. So Brian, thank you for being here. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. How where you come from and how you got started on the law business.
Absolutely. So came to Orlando in 1997.
Wow.
Been here since 97, and have a wonderful wife and 4 kids. 29, 27, 26, and 24. So we had 4 and 5 years, and then she said she was done. Right.
But that's amazing. You guys went to work.
Right. So lucky to have my kids working with us in the business.
Wow, that's amazing.
I have a law firm, about 20 in staff here locally. There's 3 attorneys, myself and my oldest son, and then Dan Smith, who's an incredible litigator in town. So 3 of us are rocking and rolling with a really sharp staff.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And did you study law? So you went from high school to college. You studied law.
Great question.
Became a lawyer.
So really coming out of, I'm originally from Indiana. All right, small Midwestern boy, town of about 40,000. Kokomo, Indiana is about an hour north of Indianapolis.
Okay.
And my father worked for 35 plus years in a factory there, making transmissions for Chrysler Motors.
Oh my goodness.
So all the cars. Back in the day, at least, that it was a Chrysler, Dodge. The transmission came from Kokomo, Indiana. And a lot of people know Kokomo because if you're going to Notre Dame, you would fly into Indianapolis and drive the 2 hours, and you hit the 1 or 2 stoplights as you went through our town to go to Notre Dame. But that's a small little town I'm from. And Indiana, back in the 80s, whenever I graduated from high school in 88, I played basketball in high school, and then I was fortunate enough to be a top player and played in college. So it came to UF, the University of Florida in Gainesville. Oddly enough, it happened because spring break. We would come for the summer, spring break, and I would be like, well, Mom and Dad, why are we going back up to the snow? Why are we doing this? Why are we leaving these beaches? And I got a picture whenever I was 16 years old, and I'm in front of the gym at the University of Florida. And I was like, man, God, if you can open this door, that would be really great. I'd love to come play ball here.
Wow.
And crazy. A couple more circumstances happened there my senior year, and then came down to Florida and I've narrowed it down to just warm states. I was literally going to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida were the main states I'd looked at, and narrowed the schools down. So that's what got us to Florida, and studied business in undergrad. And sitting right behind the bench was a really neat couple and their kids, the Shackell family. And he has a nice law firm in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay.
So Jerry was talking to me as we came for about my senior year and junior year. We'd hang out a little bit in the summers. He has kids the same age that I am. So he was like, hey, why don't you go to law? Because you can always go into insurance or banking and finance, stockbroker, whatever you want to do. You can do that later. Right now, get your law license while the school is going to pay for your law school. And I said, all right. And it's benefited me really well. Jerry owns several companies. So I know he did business outside of just law, but he was a really good litigator and had won some really big cases in Gainesville. So it was exciting to say, all right, maybe I can find a mentor I'm really good. If you look at my business career, I'm really good at not trying to reinvent the wheel. If someone's got something working, I'm a grinder, man. That's the only way I could play. I'm small. I'm 6'1". I'm not going to jump over you on the basketball court. I'm not going to, drive past you. I got to get open for a three, and I've got to work my tail off moving a lot and play some defense. So guys are quicker, faster, jump higher. So I've carried that over. Just sort of my life has been grinding, get up early, stay late, put in the time, and then the numbers will, bear out itself.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to Florida. And then the first big offer I got was from a really quality law firm in downtown Orlando. So we left Gainesville and moved to Orlando. So here we are.
Wow, that's amazing. Did you work for Jerry, though, after you graduated?
I didn't. Yeah? So Jerry does, I do injury work. So I help people that have been involved in auto accidents, medical malpractice, some injury type things. And Jerry did the same. And when I went and left law school, he's like, look, you need to go work for the insurance companies. You need to learn what's happening behind the scenes. And I did that for 3 years.
Okay.
With a really good firm downtown Orlando. And then I was ready to go out. And Jerry's like, okay, we got some cases. I can help give you some referrals. And talk about grinding. My first 2 years, maybe almost 3, I spent 4 out of 5 days a week. I would drive the 2 hours from Orlando to Gainesville every morning.
Wow.
And then at night, I wanted to raise the family. My wife and I wanted to raise the family here in Disney World, that kind of environment. But bigger city, and drive to Gainesville because a lot of my clients were in Gainesville, Ocala, and that's where the marketing boosters that I'd met, some attorneys, and that's where my referral sources were. So a lot of driving, a lot of court cases up in Gainesville. So it was 2 hours every day.
Wow. Talk about grinding.
Yeah.
I know a lot of our independent agents, they have to do like sometimes the referral source is in Volusia County or Marion County.
Yeah.
And they have to travel 1.5 to 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours. They get a lead in Miami that they got to go and sell,
Absolutely.
So man,
it's worth it, right?
It is worth it, so it was for you, so that is amazing. And then what made you start the firm together with your partner?
Yeah.
Sure. Because there's one thing about being a lawyer and working for a firm and then just starting your own thing, which is you need different skill sets now, because it's not only about being a lawyer anymore, it's also about running a business.
Yeah.
So
it took me a while for the business and running the business, that side of it. I ran it like a lawyer. Lawyers, doctors, dentists, a lot of things are said how we sort of get into our profession, and you hire supporting staff around you, and then you do law or you do medicine, and you sort of have to be there every day and grind with your time, and your supporting staff helps with mail and filing paperwork and maybe some client services until you can get on the phone with them. So getting the switch to actually doing more business side of it was a experience for me. I really had to learn a lot. It took me several years to get there to finally look at it and sort of try to step away from the day-to-day. And getting with my partner, Dan, was really beneficial. I'd had a couple guys in years past where we would try to work together. And quite often it's where you're trying to get a referral relationship together. Maybe I do the injury stuff, but they do criminal, or they do family law, or they focus on wills and estates. They have another area of practice, and versus we both do injury stuff together. So Dan is just an incredible courtroom guy. Everyone that knows him knows he's one of the top guys in the state.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people come to him because of his reputation. He's board certified. Probably his goal is to have 100 trials. He's probably in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a guy who he would spend, 50 weeks a year in the courtroom if you'd let him. He just loves being in front of people and presenting somebody's story, and really conveys the story well. So
wow,
that's his superpower, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important in business. You find out what your superpower is and try to move towards it. We were talking about the personality profiles, the DISC profile, what type of people you're working with or what kind of person you are. And then try to surround yourself with someone who's got a different strength than you do.
Yeah. And Brian, talking about the things that you guys do for the clients, like
Yep.
so once you get a client, whether it's a referral or
Yep.
someone had an injury and now they need to put in a case. So
Yep.
how does that process looks like? How did you help the client once
Yep.
you get it?
Yeah, good
Yeah.
question. So, let's go specific on an injury case. We'd look specifically, probably let's say 80% of our cases are auto accidents. We'd help them file the claim if they haven't already talked to the insurance companies. Then help them with their property damage because their cars are usually totaled or damaged significantly. And then you walk through the process to help them get healthy. So you'll talk to them about different doctors they've chosen to visit with.
Okay.
And sometimes we build relationships outside of this one relationship with an injured client, where we have doctors we're familiar with and go, look, this guy's really good quality. These guys are a little bit slow on XYZ. So you might want to look at going to these guys. They're really good. Or this guy's an excellent surgeon. These are the guys to work with. So you work with them on the health side, help them with their wages. Sometimes you have wage loss and people are out of work for extended periods of time. They've been in the hospital, they've had the surgery, and now you go to the back end. Now they're in the recovery months and months later. Get them to the right therapists, get them like rehab places.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're acquiring their medical records. We're getting all the information off to the insurance companies and saying, this is why this person deserves X amount of dollars. And doing this for almost 30 years,
Wow.
You get pretty familiar with the people you're working with at the insurance companies, the State Farms, Allstates, Progressives, Geicos, the guys we work with most, and help the client get a good result. And if they can't, then we got to move into litigation. If our numbers are too far apart, then we move into litigation, and then you're a year and a half, 2 years into it before you get in front of a jury of 7 people and help them make the right decision for your client.
Yeah, and settle the case.
Yeah.
And, oh man.
Yeah, sometimes have those jury trial results.
Yeah. Wow. So you do need to have a relationship with all this group of people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. I was thinking how it relates to your business. We're always trying to. I have a lot of lunches. I have a lot of lunches with physicians, chiropractors, marketing directors. MRI clinics. Any place that they're having to go for treatment, physical therapists. A lot of relationships built there, and if we can help get referrals to them, or they find a client that would benefit and work with us well. There's a lot of law firms that have those relationships, but sometimes either for location or for relationship, they might say, this is a really good personality, you guys would hit it off well. We get some relationship and referrals to one another through that.
How do you develop those relationships? Did you have someone maybe marketing the law firm to this or is it like you as the owner was trying to establish those relationships?
Yeah, but for myself, it's we're a smaller office. When you say just 20 in staff and 3 attorneys, it's probably more our generation, either through our reputation or doing a cold outreach. We'll reach out to a clinic that we don't deal with, maybe on the north side of town. And we're located in the southeast part of Orlando. So we'll reach out and go, hey, Doc, can I come by the office for 10 minutes and have a coffee? Or can we meet at Panera or meet somewhere and have a lunch?
Perfect.
And, it's just go grind, right? Go build those relationships. Now, whenever I got somebody or the guy I just had the other day in Altamont, I can now refer him to a good guy that I've had a face-to-face with and know how they work and what his approach is going to be to the client. So those are the best ways to build a relationship, in my opinion. Reach out.
Yeah, we love it because I think it is about the grinding.
Yeah.
A lot of people fail because they don't do those outreach. They're expecting for the client to come to them, but you have to go out and develop these relationships. So so that is
I'm
amazing.
a big proponent on being the one, having something on your books every day. I want my calendar full. I mean, there's some days I have 3 coffees where I'm going to go meet with, and a lot of times other attorneys, again, because some guys will practice and bring them part of their business, that guy who's in another specialty, but ours so happens to work better for us if they stay in their business and their lane and we stay in ours. But then if I got a client that needs their services, we can work together. So a lot of lunches and coffees with guys that are attorneys in our local area or outside the area, maybe an hour outside. I used to make that drive to Gainesville all the time. And while I was up there, all right, might as well call someone that I'd heard about or had a reputation that was effective in their lane. And then I'm like, hey, you want to get to lunch? Let's go have lunch. And, just another way to build on top. I was going to have lunch that day anyway, so might as well try to build a relationship with somebody.
That's so interesting you said that, because we can do the same thing in the insurance business. Like, we don't sell car insurance. We don't sell home insurance. So
100%.
why not meet with someone that's their lane, that's their
100%.
specialty, and try to develop those relationships, And same thing with, I was telling you, we try to network with doctors groups and primary care doctors, specialists, dentists, because, they visit our client every day,
absolutely.
And it's so good.
Can you put a brochure? Can you put a little pamphlet? Can I put something in that chiropractor or that, primary care physician's office that they have a business card, something that you can, hey, reach out to this guy. Here's somebody. It's right here on my desk. Here's someone to get health insurance.
Yeah, so
that'd be great.
That is amazing that you touch on that, because I think it's all about the network, and that's how you will get most of your business,
Along those lines,
yeah.
For me at least, 95% of the time, nothing happens, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you do a better job of getting it out there, but 25 of my 30 lunches a month, no response. I mean, we've now got a relationship, and we've traded cell phone numbers, and I know his address and his name and about his family, but maybe we just don't have the right hit it off where my client would be a good service for him, or he doesn't have anybody to refer to me. So we just built a relationship, had a good lunch together, and found out something neat about somebody. But that, 3 or 4 times a year, you're going to hit somebody who's just feeding your business, right?
And
then, but the other 20 times, you get a couple cases back and forth to one another, but you're looking, and if you're not out having the 30 lunches, you're never going to find those 2 or 3 a year. It's like, whoa, here's a big referral source, right?
Yeah, the gold. We call it gold mines.
Okay, there you go. Right.
Yeah. So, but it does takes a big portion of, in this case, lunches or networking, marketing efforts to really get to that. It's not going to be the first 3 or the first 5.
No.
You got to do that number.
Yeah.
I was talking to an agent actually last week that I interviewed, and he's very successful at visiting senior communities to find clients.
Sure.
And right now he's getting a bunch of sales every month. And I'm like, he found 6, and that's plenty enough to keep him busy for the month.
Yeah.
Sure. And I asked him, well, how many did you go to find those 6 that really feed you? And
right.
And he's like, well, I visited like 50.
Exactly. Right. So 10% is a good number for me. Yeah.
So
that's great.
So I'm like, whoa, and that's the grinding. That's what really people need to grasp. So thank you for mentioning that.
All right, to just make one phone call and the guy goes, hey, I'm not interested in lunch, and go, this will not work. It's not what it is. Of course. So imagine how many phone calls my assistant makes to get set up 30 lunches. I mean, she makes 90 phone calls
probably
to get 30 people to do lunch.
And then out of that, you might get 3 that really give you business.
Yeah, so it's just it's part of it. Do you answer the phones whenever they call? Do you let it go to voicemail and call them a week later? Or is it, no, we try to pick up every time, try to connect to who they're asking, get their answer for them right away. That's why they have my cell phone. They can just text me. It's usually better to text me.
Yeah.
And then I'll have an answer for you right away, because I can get it to the right person to get the answer, or I'll answer it myself.
Yeah.
That's key, and give that service that the big organizations don't give, right? They don't return phone calls. You're just a number to them. You're not an individual with a name and a family and kids, and no one came out to meet you individually at your home like we do. And that personal service is big time.
Yeah, awesome, man. And you are like that. I got your cell phone, and man, you're on point with your text.
Yeah,
man. Sometimes I think you'll take like a day to answer me. You are on point. So that is amazing. And people, that's what they look for. They want speed. They want especially if they're a new lead, you gotta work it fast,
right?
Because you never know.
Hey, I need your help. It's an hour drive. I'll get to you in 2 weeks. What's your schedule like in March? No, that person is going to go find somebody else, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. What will you say are some of the big challenges in your business specifically?
Yeah, leads, big challenge. Sales, I think, big challenge. So, and that's a lot of businesses, right? It's like, how am I going to get the lead source? And so getting clients, right? And you're competing against some big monsters or some big media. It may be easier to go on the internet and find somebody else, or it might you see them on television or the billboards. That's our competition, right? So those are brand, well-known industry, known people that are tough that we're competing against every day. So you got to separate yourself with the service,
With the service,
and then the quality of results, and the personal touch, And so that's probably our biggest struggle also. But once you find something that works, your buddy found the nursing homes or something, dude, call every nursing home in the entire state. I know it's going to be 5 hours to get to Tallahassee or to Pensacola, but visit all 4 of them while you're there in Pensacola, and make it a day, and then come back on the way back, go through Panama City and Tallahassee, and that's just way to do it. I mean, I love that, hearing that example. But if you can find the lane and then go after it, that's exciting.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What do you think is more important, sales or marketing?
Wow. Sales is going to get you the money, but you got to market to get it. I mean, I know it's the age-old question, right? My answer today is marketing.
Marketing, I know, right?
Without my marketing, I don't get my sales, right? I love to just be able to sit in the office and the phone just ring.
And then you use the pitch.
I just pitch and close. That'd be great. But for me, it's the marketing end of it. And I enjoy that part of it. So that's better to be that business owner. And the guy who doesn't enjoy it as much, it's tougher. You might have to collaborate and find that guy or girl who does enjoy the marketing part of it.
Yeah.
So
most of what you said is related to marketing, which that's why it's so important.
Yeah, right.
I think if you know how to market yourself, you'll be successful in sales.
Yes.
Even if you're the worst salesman, if you know how to market,
correct,
you'll get some business.
And
right?
I mean, so basketball being my background, also sports. I did a lot of baseball, and it's I mean, life is numbers, right? It really is a number game. The more phone calls you make, and you might at first only get the 3 or 4% response. Well, you just keep making the phone calls until you get better at sales, and now you're getting 5-7% response, and then it's 10%, and it's 20%. It's just it's numbers. You got to get out there and make the calls.
It's a numbers game.
And then what's your habits? Are you another one I'm big on is keeping scoreboards and metrics. How many phone calls did you make today? And how many guys did you do outreach to? And you can go through all my staff. Everybody has KPIs. What's your keeper for? Here's what I want you to watch every day, every week. And we're going to have conversations on a daily basis about it. Hey, I saw yesterday you only made 70 phone calls. What happened? I know we're trying to make 100, right? Isn't that what we're going for?
Yeah.
And, this and that. Oh, okay, let's get to 120 today. We got to make up for yesterday. Because you're not going to get those 3 or 4 home runs if you're not making the 100 phone calls.
Yeah.
And you get discouraged when you're only making 20 phone calls and there's no response. Like, well, yeah, it takes 100. So
exactly.
It's life's a numbers game. My wife and I found each other at a young age. I was in 8th grade and she was a 7th grader.
Okay.
She came to Florida with me, and then we got married. So we were together for 9 years before we got married in college. Wow. Right? And but all the time we talked about, if you were looking for your sweetheart to date, right, or to one day marry, I mean, you got to go out there and put yourself out there and make the phone call and walk up to her and ask her, do you want to dance? Whatever it is. So I love it. I got to take the shot, right? In basketball, you got to go practice morning, afternoon, night, and then I love it. It's a grind.
It is. Yeah. It is. But I love what you just said, and the KPIs, man, it's so important.
Yeah.
And you need to watch that for yourself and your staff.
Yeah.
So amazing that you do that, because that's how you get goals, right? That's how you achieve 100%. Annual goals, monthly goals.
And then it gets away from my goals to make X amount of dollars. It's to make X amount of calls and X amount of lunches, because I know those calls turn into lunches, turn into clients, turn into dollars. So yeah, it takes time, but if you stop thinking about, hey, I got to make this much money, I got to. Now, you got to make the phone calls, you got to have the lunches, you got to send out the emails, or you got to follow up with the texts. Whatever your marketing plan is, stay in that lane and just run with it,
Wow.
Find out what works, right?
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. It's been so amazing.
Awesome.
So, we want to shift gears a little bit. So the Brian Hogan, that you are right now, it's probably not the Brian Hogan from, a long time ago, or once you started your career. So what have been some things that have inspired you become, and achieving the things you have achieved so far in life?
Yeah. The first one is my faith. At a young age was attending church with my parents. And I grew up as a Christian in a non-denominational church, and attend a faith-based church now, and raise my kids in the church, and that's the number one is my relationship every morning. A buddy of mine said you should shoot for a goal of not meeting the face of someone else until you've spoken to the face of God.
Wow.
So that's part of having a prayer time in the morning. Yeah, prayer time and getting in the Word. I do it all on my phone, in the Bible app YouVersion, and there's sort of some apps to follow along there, some study guides, and I'll listen to that in the morning. And then the second one, probably the biggest one in the last 5 years, is an organization called C12. It's a Christian-based organization for business owners. And that's where you and I build our relationship a lot. And you can go online. I think it's c12.org or .com or something. But find one that's locally based, the same as I would encourage someone to find a faith-based church to plug into. I would advise you to find that in, because you're around other business owners. And we talk business and what works for them, and then how can I pick up some strategies. And 6 years ago, I was the guy with myself and 4 staff, and we just grinded on not worry about making lunches and going to calls. It was waiting for someone to call.
Wow.
And get a case in and build a relationship, whether it was 2 hours away or not, but have someone refer me cases. And I would just sit around and wait for people to refer cases. And then I would just go to the depositions, the mediations, the trials, the hearings, doing the documents. And it was really like you'd typically think of an attorney and a doctor, where they just did their profession. So that C12 helped me see it and sort of step away from it and work on the business instead of working in the business. You hear a lot. So those two.
Wow, that's amazing how C12 has really helped shape our businesses, and really look at this. This is what you got to be doing. So
I didn't have KPIs. I didn't have measures. It was just like, how do I try to pay the bills this month? Right.
There you go.
How do I keep the lights on? And how do I keep my wife happy? And how do I keep food on the table? Right.
Yeah.
So that's a different perspective they have now.
Awesome. What would you say has been the best advice that someone has given you in your industry?
Yeah, a couple of them. One was they gave me a couple referrals to books. One of my favorite books, probably 4 or 5 years ago, is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And it's just basically your habits are going to compound over and over. There's a really good saying. One of the sayings is, when you were born, you look like your parents. And whenever you pass away, you're going to look like the decisions you've made.
Wow.
So born, you're going to look like your parents. And when you die, you look like your decisions and choices. So, the good or bad, right? We are all where we're at right now because of the decisions we've made this morning, yesterday, last year, in the last 10, 20 years. That's where we're at now. And that's how we're going to look when we pass away. What kind of decisions are we making? And the compound effect goes into that. That's one of my favorite books. Atomic Habits is another real popular one that people may know. There's just, I love books on habits and daily, get up in the morning, get in the Word. You and I go running in the mornings. So try to go lift, stay in shape. And I wasn't that way 6, 7, 10 years ago.
Wow.
So it's just
it's developing these
it's just different habits. Yeah, I started getting control of myself.
Wow.
Started turning over and one day all right, I'm going to go try this. Turned in, all right, I don't like it, but I'm going to go do it. And it turned into a week, and then turned into a month, and then okay. It's so crazy, and maybe for you too, George. Well, I looked at my 2025 New Year's resolutions, what I was going to do, right? And then last month, and we said, okay, now for 26. I was looking at some stuff I wrote down for 25, and I'm like, wait, I didn't used to get up before 5 o'clock in the morning. I always get up at 5 o'clock, right? And I was like, wow, I guess in 24 and 23, I didn't, obviously, right?
Wow.
So that kind of thing. And you're like, man, I'm such a different person than I was 3 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. Hopefully for the better, right? We know a lot of guys who let themselves go. There's just,
yeah, I think
don't take care of yourself. And you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of your family and your business and everything, right?
Wow.
It's all mentality, right?
So I'm glad you mentioned that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I might read that book myself.
Yeah, it's a compound effect. It's great.
So yeah, it could be either compounding bad habits or
100%.
compounding good habits, right?
100%. You said it.
So I think you
Yeah.
started compounding these good habits.
Yeah.
And now it's just seeing you now.
Yeah.
Because of that. Wow.
And being around C12 and some buddies, they ask some really good questions. There's a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X, right? And the question they ask quite often is, if you had unlimited money and unlimited time, what would you be trying to attempt in your business over the next year?
Wow.
And what holds you back from trying to do that? And it's usually time and money hold me back. But if you didn't, if there's some effort, if there's not making the phone calls, if there's not doing the outreach, not hiring the right people for the roles, then you got to sort of sit back and go, oh, wow, if I really wanted to 10X my company versus just keep the lights on, what would I be doing differently on a daily basis? And how can I improve by 1%? How can I just today make a little step towards that?
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Love it.
Last question, Brian.
Okay.
If you have to give an advice to the 20-year-old version of yourself, what would you say to Brian Hogan?
All right. We thought of this yesterday. We had a men's group at church on Tuesday mornings at Discovery Church. Mm-hmm. And the question was, your 3 biggest decisions in life are the 3 M's. Who's your master? What's your mission? And who's your mate?
Wow.
And your mate's going to help you follow your mission to whoever your master is. So big decision about choosing the right mate, right? And at this age, done chose it. God put a great woman in my life, so lucky in that. But at 20 years old, really lock in on the master, mission, and mate part of it. And I was like, oh, man, I get jealous when I talk to guys who are 20, 27. There's a guy who's 27 at our table yesterday.
Wow.
I'm like, dude, to be able, you got the whole world ahead of you. Now, Irving, good friend of ours, young guy, and he's plugging in with good mentors. Mm-hmm. Get a mentor, find a family, find somebody in business or faith or marriage, and go use that example it's been there. I started off at the beginning about I don't try to reinvent the wheel. I tried to have Jerry Shakow from Shakow Mercadante sat behind me on the bench and told me, I'll help you become a great attorney, right?
Yeah, that's your mentor.
I see Jerry now every 2 months. I drive up to Gainesville, have lunch with him, and talk of business and life and real estate and law and everything, marriage. So, awesome. Find somebody that can help you, a mentor maybe even, that helps you move towards that mate mission and mate master. Yeah.
Wow. That's great advice. Great advice.
Great.
Well, thank you so much, Brian.
Awesome.
I think it was great, man. You really gave some really good bullet points here. So definitely gonna watch this one.
Great. I will do.
So all right. And guys, this has been all for our Ideas Edition podcast. Brian Hogan from Hogan Smith Law. Oh, Brian, if we got a case, like, how can they reach out to you?
Hogansmith.com. 1-800-51-HOGAN is our phone number. 51-HOGAN or Hogansmith.com. Check us out.
Awesome. So you've been great, successful business owner. And we want to learn from people like Brian Hogan because, they have not only taken their business to next levels, but other aspects of life. And that's what we try to do here at the Ideas Edition podcast, inspire you so that you can take your business, your life, and your goals to the next level. That's it for today. I'll see you all on the next Ideas Edition podcast. Take care, everyone.